After the independence in 1947, India adopted a model of socialism which resulted in a very rigid economic structure, which discouraged privatization, gave more power to bureaucracy, which allowed corruption to seep in eventually. Until 1991, there was only one TV channel, one telephone company in entire India. There were very few industries which were mostly controlled by the government. It was difficult even to establish educational institutions, let alone defense industry. This all resulted in capital outflow, talent outflow, loss of innovation, less job creation, low competition, less diversification. Most of the population remained in the villages, tended to the traditional jobs like agriculture, earned less, remained uneducated or undereducated. Even after 68 years of independence, 68% of India remains in villages, with around 50% still employed in agriculture. From 1950s to 1980s, Indian GDP grew at a rate of 3.5% per annum. For a country which was easily amongst poorest of countries, it was a painfully low rate of 3.5. During the same time, Pakistan grew at 5%, Indonesia at 9%, Thailand at 9%, South Korea at 10%, and Taiwan at 12%. Things started changing positively in the 1980s. India grew at an average rate of 5% per annum from 1980 to 1990. But the real changes started in 1991 after the liberalization of the economy. Combination of events, both internal and external, forced India to finally liberalize. India is still being liberalized. India ranks 130 among 189 countries in the ease of doing business rankings. There is definitely a long way to go to be a completely liberalized economy. But still, India is growing at a rate of 7.5% per annum on average since the economic liberalization in 1991. India could easily reach double-digit figures if we liberalize the economy, make it easy for doing business, and encourage startups. If India had grown at 7.5% per annum from 1950 to 1990 instead of the socialistic 3 to 4%, Indian GDP would have been 4 times bigger than what it is today. To get a better picture of Indian economy before and after the liberalization, let us compare with Pakistan, which had same GDP per capita numbers as India in 1960, but grew quicker than India till 1990s. After the liberalization, India grew at a quicker pace than Pakistan and finally caught up with it in the 2000s, 2004 to be specific, and has been growing at a quicker pace since then. In 1960, India and Pakistan had almost same per capita numbers. In 1962, for example, both had GDP nominal per capita of $234 according to World Bank data. In 1970, Indian nominal per capita was $273 and Pakistani nominal per capita was $345. Indian GDP per capita was around 78% of Pakistani GDP nominal per capita. GDP PPP per capita data is only available after 1980. So let us consider PPP values which more accurately reflect the economic condition of the country. In 1980, Indian GDP PPP per capita value was $557, whereas Pakistani per capita was $916. Indian per capita was just 60% of Pakistani per capita. India ranked 122 out of possible 141 countries, that is, 86% of the countries were better than India in per capita terms. In 1991, the year of liberalization, Indian GDP per capita was $1,192. Pakistani per capita was $2,017. Indian per capita was about 59% of Pakistani per capita. There was not much improvement from 1980 to 1990. India ranked 118 out of possible 151 countries. That is, 78% of the countries were better than India in per capita terms. In 2001, Indian GDP per capita was $2,128. Pakistani per capita was $2,816. Indian GDP per capita was around 75% of Pakistani per capita. This decade saw a comparatively higher growth for India, reducing the gap between India and Pakistan. India ranked 139 out of possible 185 countries, that is, 75% of the countries were better than India in per capita terms. In 2011, Indian GDP per capita was $4,749. Pakistani GDP per capita was $4,350. India finally overtook Pakistan in 2004 and grew at a comparatively higher rate after that. Indian per capita was around 109% of Pakistani per capita. India ranked 130 out of possible 190 countries, that is, 68% of the countries were better than India in per capita terms. For 2016, this year, IMF estimates Indian GDP per capita to be $6,599 and Pakistani GDP per capita to be $5,174. That makes Indian per capita 127% of Pakistani GDP per capita. India ranks 126 out of possible 190 countries, that is 66% of the countries are better than India in per capita terms currently. According to IMF estimates for 2021, Indian GDP per capita will be $9,837 in 2021 compared to $6,648 of Pakistani per capita. That makes Indian per capita 148% of Pakistani per capita. India is ranked 119 out of possible 189 countries. That is 63% of the countries will be better than India in per capita terms in 2021. IMF predicts 2.5% growth rate for United States for the next couple of years, and it is expected to grow at the same rate for 10-15 years after that. India is expected to grow at 7.5% for the next couple of years and in excess of 7% for the next 10-20 years. If the predictions hold good and the population growth rates don't change drastically because of calamities or war, India will become a bigger economy than USA on GDP PPP terms sooner than 2035.